to this week's Jaeger Show. My name is Mae Venwright, and today I'll be interviewing our very own Eli Kaufman about his article, Sustaining Success, Why Top Brands Need Consulting Firms to Keep Their Edge in the Fashion Industry. Welcome, Eli.
Thank you, Maeve. It's a pleasure to be here.
So your article talks a lot about how consulting can provide unique insight to high-end brands. Why do you think there's been resistance to using modern data techniques in the fashion industry up until now?
Well, so there's sort of two different reasons that I would identify as to why you're not seeing sort of development with modern sort of data techniques. So the first would be pretty simple. It's like brands are unaware or they're unsure of how to move forward or develop like an online platform or how to implement these data strategies. I think the main one, you could frame it as brand identity, mission, or perspective. So there's this tactile aspect to fashion, and that can be lost a lot of times in generalized solutions or through digitalization of sort of the company and the brand. And so like the whole experience of going to the store, of sort of buying the clothes, connecting with the clothes, that is sort of lost when you implement sort of these techniques sometimes, or if you rely heavily on those techniques. Because it's important to remember that a brand is not just clothes. They sort of want to tell a story and they want to have a mission. And so a lot of times you'll see these large luxury firms that rely on those experiences to sort of justify the uniqueness of their brand. They're more reluctant to sort of implement these techniques because they don't want to stray away from their original authenticity or their identity.
Right. Yeah, I think we see a lot of today of brands having trouble sort of making that balance between traditional retail and transitioning into e-commerce. I think that's a great point. Another question I was wondering about is, in your research of brands and their historic missteps in strategy, what have you found to be a common mistake that top brands today make?
So I would say the biggest mistake brands seem to be making today, and it's been happening quite often, especially given how much has changed in recent years, not just with technology, but in terms of like how many crazy world events have been going on recently. So I would say the missteps would be a lack of innovation and strategy. And this is especially prevalent with legacy brands. They continue to implement the same strategy, even though times are changing. That is probably the most common mistake a lot of these brands make, is simply going with the same thing that's proven successful over time.
Right. Yeah. And I think with a lot of these brands, they really like to stick to their own in-house people and they have a strong idea of their own image. So they're resistant to looking to outside consulting firms for help. So what would you say to a brand who might be resistant to that sort of outside perspective for the reason that they're sticking to their traditions?
So I think there are two things I'd want to say to a sort of a brand that is more hesitant to hire outside consultants. Would want to sort of assuage their fears that they're not losing their authenticity or their creative touch. They're not going to lose that sort of freedom and direction if they hire outside. And in fact, you can improve upon the legacy of the brand um, by changing the direction, because you're sort of preserving it and sort of evolving it to become more modern. So that's first thing I would say. You're not losing your touch. And in fact, you're setting yourself up to make a bigger impact or to better tell your story. And then the second is, I would highlight, of course, the problems you have when you only keep internal dialogue. Ultimately, what happens is it becomes sort of antiquated. The strategy is no longer effective, and sometimes it can even harm the brand by only keeping internal dialogue. Fashion, it necessitates innovation. Fashion is sort of a response to the world. And so if you keep internal dialogue and you sort of ignore what's going on, then right, you sort of take away the whole point of fashion, which is in response to what's going on.
I totally agree. And that's really what we're all about here at House of Jaeger. And I guess just my last question is, what to you really sets House of Jaeger apart from other consulting firms?
That's a great question. So I think the first we could identify is House of Jaeger occupies a unique position in their own specialization. So House of Jaeger has more expertise and sort of experience in dealing with sort of the digitalization and e-commerce and sort of the tools to prepare brands for future growth and future consumer bases. So, we have a lot of insight into Gen Z and millennial behaviors, and they're ultimately going to become the consumer bases with the most purchasing power. And so they're in the best position to help brands prepare for being successful in the future. And as the article title says, sustaining that success. So I would identify that as our first sort of selling point. Why we're more unique is we're specialized in what's going to matter. And then the second is that House of Jaeger is sort of a very, very worldly brand, right? We're in Stockholm, we're in Paris, we're in Los Angeles, we're in New York. And so we have an eye on all the different strategies being utilized across the world. What you're going to get at House of Jaeger is sort of tailored services to best match where the brand is, or where they're trying to grow or expand or innovate. And so I would say those are probably the two biggest aspects. Is we are experts in what will be successful in the future, as well as the fact that we're very worldly, and so we have insights, from all around the globe that we can help apply and better each business that may not be aware or have its branches all over.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's definitely what the industry is really needing right now. And that's where really we fit in. But I just want to say thank you so much, Eli, for having this talk with me today. And thanks to everyone for watching this week's Jaeger Show. If you're interested in learning more about House of Jaeger or reading Eli's article, please visit our website at houseofjaeger.com. And if you've enjoyed this week's video, please give us a like and subscribe for more Jaeger shows.